we have a lot of big games coming up tomorrow. I mean, we have the Auburn versus Oklahoma game. We have Nebraska versus Michigan. We have Texas Tech against Utah. And sometimes when you have to go to Rice Eccles, it could be a trap game. Some of these games. I mean, ask USC a couple years ago. I will say Bo Nix and the Oregon Ducks. They went in there. They ended up getting a win. But anyways, let's jump into the video. Okay, so I wanted to make this video real quick because there was this hunch that I had that I did not want to ignore as we move into this week in these slated games, where the hunch that I'm getting is a lot of attention is more drawn towards Arch Manning's kind of stinking up the joint, Lagway's stinking up the joint, where nobody's talking about what Nebraska's doing and how Nebraska could potentially be a dark horse for the Big Ten. Nobody's talking about it. Everybody's already penciled in, okay, Ohio State's the best team in the Big Ten. They're going to win the Big Ten. And then the Big Ten championship game could potentially be a rematch of Week 6. I think they play in Week 6. Obviously I'm talking about Ohio State and Penn State, where, okay, this is what the Big Ten championship game is going to be. Everybody's already overlooking, Oregon, when it's do we remember who won the Big Ten championship game? A Pac-12 team. Okay, again, yeah, okay, realignment, okay, whatever. But I think what people are kind of overlooking is, I think, just QB play when you look at stats. Just look at stats. Dylan Raiola has 8 touchdowns compared to Bryce Underwood's 2. Okay, and then interceptions are one thing. I think Oklahoma's defense is really good. And so, yeah, Underwood threw an interception. It's a lot to expect out of a freshman to go play Oklahoma on the road and get out of there with a win. And I think the other thing, too, is to try to compare. I mean, because the other thing, too, when you look at defenses, because it's harder to gauge 3-0 starts against non-conference opponents. I mean, Michigan played, I believe, New Mexico, kind of escaped with a win, and then they played Central Michigan, and they blew them out. So everything that went wrong in the Oklahoma game was kind of made amends the next game, just because they blew them out. And it's harder to gauge that because Oklahoma's defense, shut down Michigan's offense, and then Michigan's defense is supposed to be really good, but look at what Mateer was able to do. Now he's already, in talks to winning the Heisman, and he's one of the front runners right now. Up there with Nussmeier as well. I'd say a quiet one. Gosh, who else? I haven't even looked at who, hey, who's going to win the Heisman? But I think right now, when you look at it, Nebraska's defense hasn't given up a lot of points, so we'll see how Michigan's offense can compete with that. But what I'm looking at is, up until this point, which quarterback has had that big game, that standout game that puts them on the map? Mateer's already had one of those. Nussmeier has already had one of those this season. And even in a loss, Aguilar for Tennessee, he's had a big game too. And so that's one thing that I wanted to kind of jump out here and say is there's this stat where Nebraska has not won against a ranked opponent since 2015, 2016. They're 0-30, something like that. I saw a stat. And the point that I was trying to come across is this has the makings of, if Nebraska wins tomorrow and they do get a huge home win against Michigan, I think the national attention is going to turn a little bit, and there's going to be more acknowledgement for Nebraska and what they've done, versus the flip side on, oh my gosh, Michigan can't get their shit figured out. They're 2-2. They suck. And I think there's going to be more headlines on, hey, maybe we've overlooked Nebraska. And it's hey, yeah, I think you kind of have. And I also think you've kind of been overlooking Kansas a little bit. You've been overlooking Missouri a little bit. You've been overlooking BYU a little bit. Maybe even Baylor, too. Because look at what Baylor did against SMU. It's kind of tough to gauge a week 1 game, Baylor against Auburn. But I think there are a lot of kind of teams that are slipping under the radar. And I think personally, yeah, if Nebraska does win this game against Michigan, they're a top 25 team. I've kind of been throwing that out there a little bit, but we will just have to see how tomorrow plays out. I think it has the makings of, okay, if Nebraska's going to go on a run here in the Big Ten, and if Nebraska's going to be one of those teams where they play a little bit of upset where okay, we're going to beat Michigan to box Michigan out of potentially, running into Ohio State for the Big Ten championship game, where whoever wins out of Ohio State and Michigan, they end up going to the Big Ten championship game playing a team like a sneaky USC team, a sneaky Michigan State team. Because again, Michigan State's 3-0 right now. So, okay, maybe the winner of that game could be, the other side of that coin where, okay, whoever wins out of Michigan State and Penn State, maybe they could be that second team. Let's not overlook maybe some of the Pac-12 teams beat up on each other, inside the Big Ten, and Oregon, they don't end up going. Maybe it's SC, and so we have SC against Nebraska. We have SC against Ohio State, because everybody's already penciled in Ohio State, which, again, we'll just have to see. But what a better way to start and make that, run than getting a big win right now, because we could see for the rest of the season, Nebraska's schedule is pretty favorable until they got that big one against Penn State. But who's to say where Penn State will be after we start out undefeated, got to go play Ohio State, they lose to Ohio State. Maybe that's, takes out all the, wind in the sails for that season. And then you look at Michigan's schedule for the rest of the season. You got other big games like Washington. I think Washington could be a sneaky team. Michigan State, Wisconsin, SC, and then, the last one at the end of the year, we all know, because I think, Michigan has some big games coming up. And so I think this could be a game that decides the rest of the season for both teams, respectfully. But again, you lose one, you win over, you win 6 games, you're going to go to a bowl game. But if Michigan wins this game, okay, look at them ride the momentum for the rest of this and try to get a spot, in the Big Ten championship game. But then if Nebraska wins this game, hey, you got Northwestern, you got Minnesota, you got UCLA, you got there are a lot of teams, there are a lot of games and teams up until the Penn State game where it's dude, you win out, you're going to the Big Ten championship game. That's all my thoughts, though. It's just a hunch that I didn't want to ignore. Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments. Who do you have winning? Do you have the Cornhuskers? Do you have the Wolverines? Be sure to let me know in the comment section, and I'll see you all in the next video.